How to photograph the Geminids Meteor Shower step by step. Hello PhotoPiller, Rafael the Bar here. In this video you'll learn how to photograph the Geminids Meteor Shower 2021 that's peaking on the night that goes from December 13th to December 14th, or any other meteor shower in the future. We'll see how to plan your photo of the Geminids Meteor Shower, all the gear you need and all the camera settings you need to nail your shot. Let's go! To plan your photo of the Geminids Meteor Shower, all you have to do is to go to PhotoPills, tap on Planner, and the first thing you need to do is to place the red pin in the area you wish to photograph the shower. And then tap on the map settings button here, and I'm gonna switch off the sun layer because I don't really need the sun information to plan the meteor shower. So tap on the eye next to the sun layer here on the map layers to switch it off. And now tap on the meteor shower layer. And from this calendar, choose 2021 calendar, choose Geminids Meteor Shower and go back to the map. Notice that the time bar has been set to the local peak date. This is on December 14th, 2021. This is for the red pin location, and to the local peak time at 4:05 a.m. Also, the Geminids information appears on the time bar, on the map, and on the meteor shower panel you have here above the map. So swipe to the right, to the left until you get to the meteor shower panel. Yeah, this one. All this information will help us to really quickly plan our meteor shower shot. Pay attention to the time bar now. Do you see this gray area on the time bar? This gray area represents the meteor shower rate, the meteors per hour for the selected time. You can read the number of meteors per hour on the top panel. The peak date and the peak time, 4:05 a.m. The expected number of meteors per hour is 125 meteors per hour expected. The gray area on the time bar is super important because it will help us understand or decide the shooting time, when to start and when to stop shooting the meteor shower. For example, for the Geminids here in Menorca, where the red pin is, I used to start when the moon sets around more or less 3:30 a.m. It's when the moon goes below the horizon, and I'll keep shooting until more or less around 6:30 a.m. It's when the meteors will begin to disappear because of the sunlight. So from 3:30 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. is my shooting time. You know that with the meteor showers, the more time you spend out there shooting, the better, the more meteors you will capture. Cool, we have our shooting time. Let's move on. Notice that on the time bar, it is represented the path of the radiant. And you also have this path on the map. This way, you know at all time where the radiant of the meteor shower is, which is super important to decide where you want to frame. But what's the radiant and why is that important? Well, the radiant of a meteor shower is that spot in the sky where meteors originate. As I said, you need to know where it is at all time to decide where you want to frame the camera. For instance, if you wish to create an image like this one, you'll need to frame the radiant. You'll need to include the radiant point of the meteor shower in the photo. By the way, if you wish to learn how to create images like this one, I recommend you to watch the masterclass that Ian Norman gave about photographing the Perseids meteor shower. Watch it. When framing, another option is to frame 30 to 40 degrees away from the radiant and try to capture longer tails of the meteors. Longer meteors. Great. Now that we know our shooting time from 3:30 to 6:30 and where the radiant is at all time based on the red pin position, it's time to find our shooting spot. So it's time to move the red pin to all the locations we know, all the locations you know that have an interesting subject to play with the meteors of the Geminids. For example, on the south coast of Menorca, the beach of Binigaus, right here, it's a great spot to photograph the Geminids. So to place the red pin, I just tap and hold on the map, and the red pin is placed where I'm tapping and holding. I'm gonna place it right over here, for example. Why do I like Binigaus? Well, I like it because here we have a couple of rock formations that are pretty cool and can be photographed from the beach. Now, if I want to include the radiant in the frame, I want to photograph the radiant of the meteor shower along with these rock formations, this red pin position is great because it allows me to photograph both the rock formations and the radiant. See how I move time? The radiant moves above the rock formations. On the contrary, if I wanted to frame away from the radiant, I will move more west, so the radiant is not in the frame when I'm photographing these rock formations. Just choose your shooting spot based on the composition you want and the position of the radiant you want. Tip: when you're in the field, use the Night AR button you have here at the bottom to visualize the position of the radiant in the sky at all time. Let me look for the radiant of the Geminids. Here I have it. So here is the position of the radiant seen from the red pin position, and you can swipe your finger from right to left and change the time and see where the radiant is gonna be at all time, which is great. This way you can miss it. I know that the radiant is over there, right there on the peak night, and depending on the selected time, you see how it changes and moves across the sky, which is great. You can miss it. The Night AR tool will really help you frame your shot when you're in the field. It will really help you spot the radiant point of the meteor shower at all time. What else? Well, this has been a really short explanation of how to plan the Geminids Meteor Shower. If you wish to learn other ways on how to plan the Geminids Meteor Shower, I recommend you to watch this video. To photograph the Geminids, you'll need your camera, of course, a wide-angle lens to include more sky in the photo. Use, for example, a focal length between 10mm to 35mm. Short focal lengths work great for meteor showers. You also need a sturdy tripod and head, an intervalometer to set the camera to shoot for as much time as possible, and to avoid introducing vibrations into the system. Why? Because vibrations produce blur images. So the less you touch the camera, the better. If your foreground is too dark, try to use two LED panels to add light from the side, and set the power to the lowest level, to 3-5%. This will allow you to get a more natural look of the foreground. Also, and this is key, when photographing a meteor shower, battery power is important. So the question is, how can you let the camera to shoot for the whole night without having to worry about running out of battery power? Well, to get rid of the power battery problem, we use a power bank connected to the case relay power system, connected to a dummy battery for the camera. Actually, here you have a video where I explain how to use this power system to get rid of the battery power problem forever. What else do you need? Yes. If you're shooting in a humid area near a lake or near the sea, use a heater strip band to keep the lens warm. Avoid moisture condensation at all costs, because moisture will produce blurry images, and we don't want that. When photographing a meteor shower, another option is to photograph it using a star tracker to shoot much longer exposures and to capture more powerful meteors and more powerful stars. A star tracker is a pretty advanced tool, but if you wish to learn how to use a star tracker, I recommend you to watch the masterclass Dan Safra did on how to use star trackers. You have it here. Watch it. To photograph a meteor shower, we'll basically use the same settings we use when photographing the Milky Way. So on the meteor shower peak night, arrive at the location at least 1 hour before the shooting time, and set up the gear at the planned shooting spot, the red pin position. Attach the lens to your camera and set up the focal length you wish to use, 10mm, 14mm, 24mm. Set the widest aperture you have available, f1.4, f2.8, and don't be afraid to push the ISO up to 1600, 3200, 6400, depending on the noise performance of your camera. Now it's time to make focus. Where to focus? Well, it depends on your taste. One option is to make focus on the stars, to get the stars super sharp, but you'll lose a bit of sharpness in the foreground on your subject. The second option is to focus on your subject, and if your subject falls behind the hyperfocal distance, then the stars will be also acceptably sharp. You can calculate the hyperfocal distance using the hyperfocal table included in PhotoPills. So tap on the hyperfocal table and introduce your camera. I'm using the Nikon Z6 here at the top, and then on the table, based on the focal length you want to use and the aperture, you'll get the hyperfocal distance. So for 14mm focal length and an aperture of f2.8, the hyperfocal distance is 2.33 on a full frame camera like the Nikon Z6. As you see, it's super easy to calculate the hyperfocal distance with the hyperfocal table in PhotoPills. I recommend you to watch this video if you wish to go deeper into the hyperfocal distance concept. You wish to master hyperfocal distance, and you also learn how to focus on the hyperfocal distance. So watch it. When focusing, a third option is to use the focus stacking technique. First, take multiple shots of the foreground focusing at different distances so you get everything sharp. And then make focus on the stars when you wish to photograph the meteor shower. Finally, combine all the images in post to get everything in focus, from the foreground, from the front to the back, to the stars. Okay, shutter speed. This one is easy. Just use the shutter speed you use when photographing the Milky Way. You can calculate it using the Spotted Stars calculator included in PhotoPills. Just tap on Spotted Stars, introduce your camera, again I'm using the Nikon Z6, and then introduce your focal length, 40mm, your aperture, f2.8 in my case, the declination of the stars, leave it to 0, and the accuracy leave it to default. And then on the table you'll have two values, the MPF rule, which gives me around 18 seconds, and the 500 rule, 36 seconds. In this case, I recommend you always to start with the MPF rule value, 18 seconds, and just increase it or decrease it based on your taste. The goal here is to get the stars as pinpoints and not trails. So again, I use the start at 18 seconds, take a taste shot, and if you like what you see, great, stick it with it. But if you wish to increase a little bit the exposure time to get more detail in the sky, for example, more stars, you can do it. Push it to 22 seconds, take another test shot, and check if the stars are trailing or not. It's a matter of playing a bit, and it's super fast and super easy to do. White balance. Set the white balance to manual. If you're under a dark sky, I recommend you to use a white balance around 3900 Kelvin to get a more natural look of the stars. And if you're shooting under light polluted conditions, I recommend you to use a white balance of 3400 Kelvin. Well, now it's time to take a shot and adjust your composition and check that the stars are not trailing, that the focusing is right, and that the exposure is right with the histogram. And again, if you're getting a too dark foreground, it's always a good idea to use a couple of LED panels to add light from the side. Once everything looks good, set the camera to bulb and use the intervalometer to set the shutter speed, usually between 15 to 25 seconds, and the time between two consecutive shots to 1 or 2 seconds. Of course, use a longer time between shots if your camera or memory card cannot work at that speed. Finally, if necessary, attach the view heater strip to the lens. Press the shutter release button on the intervalometer and let the camera work for you. It's time to relax and enjoy the show. Now, if you wish to learn more on how to photograph meteor showers, I invite you to download our super detailed meteor shower photography guide. I'm going to leave a link in the description of this video and in the first comment below. Download it. And as always, if you like this video, give me a like, subscribe, and I'll see you next Wednesday in our video. And remember that you have the power to imagine, plan, and shoot legendary photos. Bye bye.